this presentation is a culmination of literally, like, I've been a trainer for 16 years, 17 years, half my life, and the last 10 years running this gym. One of the things that I realized being a coach is that a lot of people, you could give people the same program and one person's gonna take off and get great results and one person's not. And so the information, hey, what's up? Come on in. So the information I'm going over today is just a culmination of all the information that I found over the years to help people get faster results. Diet mastery, what's diet mastery all about? And so this presentation, as I said, it's taken me years of studying and lots of watching people change. This is all my experience kind of culminated together in this presentation. Some of the things I'm gonna go over today are, it's written on my gym right here, mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual aspects of being healthy and being fit. And what it comes down to really is that I'm giving you guys the tools to work on yourself. That's what diet mastery is all about. Helping you guys to, as I always used to, when I was younger, years ago, I would give people one diet to do. And actually at the end of this presentation, I'm gonna go over 4 different diets. And the whole key is to give you guys the tools to work on yourself. Instead of saying you have to do this one diet to change your life, I give you the option to pick from 4 different diets to find the diet that works best for you. Now, what are these tools for self-mastery? As I mentioned before, it's about the mental game. It's about physical development. It's about emotional intelligence, something that we don't really teach in schools today, which I think would be really important. And also spiritual enrichment. And last but not least, today we're going to be going over the diet challenge details. Some of you guys have already signed up. Actually, most of you guys have. It's pretty good. I got my list right there. So these are the tools for self-mastery, right? And that's what I'm trying to do today, is maybe some of you guys are aware of some of the stuff that I've gone over, but and maybe if you are, I want to kind of highlight how you can expand on some of the stuff that you may already know so you can be more successful and with less effort. That's the key, because I've realized, like I said, I have 2 people doing the same program. One person's taking off and one person's not. And if you're not working on these things, mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual game, that's a big reason why. And so that's what I'm gonna do today, is share those tools with you guys. So first off, what does the word diet mean? And what is a diet? The word diet in Latin means way of life. I've actually told this to many trainers and coaches, and they're like, I had no idea. Because a lot of people walk around, you may have known somebody, or maybe you've said this in your life, where you say, I hate diets. And what people are saying is, I hate my way of life. And so when you change the way you view what a diet is, it's easier to change your way of life. Does that make sense? Because a lot of people are like, oh, like whatever your food, if you're eating McDonald's, you're on the McDonald's diet. If you're a giraffe, you're eating giraffe food, you're on the giraffe diet. You're always on a way of life that you choose based upon what you put in your mouth. But people have become disconnected from that, and that's one of the questions I want to answer for you guys today. What is a diet? And why develop a diet or self-mastery? Why do you even want to do this in the first place? I'm going to give you guys the tools for that as well. And how do I change/maintain my diet once I've started something new? Because like, you do a diet, you come off of it, do you just go back to the same old habits? I mean, it's okay to have a little bit of this in life. You don't want to have big dips and ups and downs in your life. And when you learn to manage your diet, you're going to be more successful. Now, self-mastery or diet or way of life mastery, I like to use images to kind of give you a different perspective on how things work. And if you look here, a boat, the center of the boat is what's called the mast, right? And so when I tell you guys to work on diet mastery or self-mastery, it's really like mastering a ship in water, because you're gonna come up against waves, you're gonna come up against different weather conditions and whatnot, and this is a kind of example of what you face in your own day-to-day life. And so you have to know the vessel, and the more you know about how your mind, your body, and your emotions function, then you're gonna be able to handle whatever comes at you in your day-to-day life. We have crazy things happen at work, we have crazy things happen in our relationships in our lives, and so we have to know the vessel so that we can perform better. Now the other thing too is, where do you want to go? I have a couple pictures back here that I'm hiding from you guys. I'm going to go over in a moment. But where do you want to go? Some people are on this boat and they're working on themselves and they're not even controlling the boat because they haven't picked a direction. And sometimes they may have picked a direction, but it's like a target and they haven't really decided what the bullseye is. So they're not really in track with where they want to get to. So they don't even have a goal set up. So where do you want to go? So that's important if you're gonna do a diet or a new way of life, is making sure that you're focused upon what your destination is. How to use your environment to your advantage. Like examples are like, I'm giving a speech in a couple days to WBE Electric, and they provide food for the company. So like when you have opportunities like that, how can you use that to your advantage? Or like, what do you have in your day-to-day life that allows you to be more successful? Like if you're on a boat, what things can you use in your environment? If you're in like low tide or high tide, what things can you use to help you to perform better? But you have to be conscious of these things, and that's one of the most important things today, is going over being conscious of this stuff. why you're doing it and staying motivated in tough weather and conditions. We're going to have, everybody here ever had a bad day? Right? We all have bad days. It happens. We all face bad weather in certain conditions that make things difficult for us. So if you keep yourself motivated, it's going to be a lot much easier for you to be successful and sustain that success as well. Also, this is one of the most important things I'm going to go over in this upcoming slide is how to not fight the current. Some people are consciously saying they want to make their goals happen, but their subconscious mind is going against them. And I'm really going to hit on that today because that's a big aspect of the mental game. So here's a picture, like you could be on this boat and you think everything's great, but you're sailing into a storm and you may not even be conscious of it because you're not paying attention to the food that you're putting in your mouth and how it's affecting your body or affecting your boat. And instead you want to be, this is actually a picture of, I was on the top of a boat in Bali, beautiful. So this is where you want to be. You want to be like just chilling, watching the sunset. You don't want to be heading towards a storm. And so if you really focus on little ways where you can shift your diet, like pull some things out, put some things in, that can really change the current, change the direction, and change where you're going in your life so you can be like this. Who else wants to go to Bali? It was really a lot of fun out there. So the mental game. This is the most wordy slide in my presentation. I don't like having lots of words. I'd rather have pictures, but I want to get into this stuff. And it's really important that you focus on where you're putting your energy. And very powerful concept here. The greater the mass of an idea, the more gravitational force it is going to attract, which makes it more powerful. So my way of explaining this is like you think about like a planet in the solar system. It has a great mass, right? And has a gravitational pull. So same concept in your mind. The more you put your energy into an idea, you're going to attract success. You're going to attract whatever you want to it. So like if you're like, oh, I kind of want to change my diet, you didn't put a lot of energy into it. If you're really focusing on really putting the time in and preparing yourself mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually every single day, you're going to attract more energy to that idea, and it's going to be much easier for you to get results. This is the big part of the mental game. People like they say, oh, I want to accomplish this goal. That's why it's really important to write down your goals, because you're creating it, you're manifesting it more for yourself. And then when you share it with other people too, you talk about it with other people. Like you're telling me that you're telling your friends that you really want to get healthy and want it to motivate you, right? So that's an important aspect of this, because you make it real. The more you talk about it, the more you create it. And the other thing you're going to do is the more energy you put into it, the more it cultivates into your reality. It's like it already happened in your life. It's just boom, you've attracted it, and it's happening for you. An example is me in this gym. Like 10 years ago, I had a dream to open up a gym, and I put so much energy into it that I'm actually living that. It's no different than you doing what you want with your diet or your way of life. Whenever I say diet, I want you to start thinking way of life. Way of life. If you start shifting that perception, then, oh, my way of life. And you hear other people say it, like I said, I hate my diet, I hate my way of life. They're creating that with your own perceptions. And the subconscious mind only works on images. As I mentioned before, this is extremely important. And I'm going to go over these pictures here in a moment here. You can attract or repel whatever you want in life based upon how you choose to see it. Does that make sense? Does that make sense to you guys? Like, it's really important. You can attract or repel based upon how you choose to see it. Okay? Now let me show you what I mean here. I'm going to pull this up just for a moment, because I have some wonderful pictures to share with you guys. I'm going to close this for a moment. And you'll see my lovely, great art skills, right? Look at that beautiful boat. So how does the mind work? Okay, and this is an example. Like I had a picture of a boat, right? Make sure you can see there. Your conscious mind is here, right? And you could be consciously, you could tell all your friends, I'm going to get in shape, I'm going to lose weight, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. You could shoot off fireworks into the sky and say, I'm going to make this my dream happen. And so this island destination is your goal. That's where you want to get in life, okay? And you could be telling everybody that you want to do it, but your subconscious mind, which is like the current below, is going against you. So you could literally have the sail set perfectly. You could be rowing towards your goal. You could have the propeller pushing you towards your goal, but you're fighting the subconscious mind. You're being pushed back, and it's happening on a subconscious level. And you're like, why am I not getting the results that I want, right? So what you have to do is figure out ways where you can get the subconscious mind and get that energy to shift so that you can actually get the current taking you to your goal, and it's much less effort. Let me give you another example of where people are making mistakes in their life where they can make subtle changes. You see here I kind of drew my funky, wavy, hairy looking wake of the ship here, right? So it's coming off the back of the ship. Now, we've all done this in our lives. We've had moments where you're not here guiding the ship. How are you going to get to your goal if you're not guiding the ship? The people are sitting back here on the back of the boat. They have their hands right here, and they're looking at their past, and they're saying, well, all these things happened in my past, and that's what led to me being here now. And the thing is that when you're consciously working from that level, you're not going to be guiding the ship, right? And we've all had moments in our life. I've done this too. I'm like, oh my God, this thing happened. And like, but in reality, what's happening now creates the past. So when you change your perception, right, then it's easier to change your subconscious mind, because otherwise the current's going against you because you're not even guiding the ship, right? Because you're here. You could be sitting on the back of the ship and you've thrown anchors into the water, right? And you got these anchors from your past and you've forgotten they're in the water and you're dragging them along telling, hey everybody, I'm gonna get in great shape and see all these results, right? It's just not gonna happen, or it's gonna take a tremendous amount of more effort. Does that make sense? This is what I mean by working on the subconscious mind. I'm using this image for you guys to kind of look at yourself like, well, I threw some anchors back a few years ago. I'm sitting on the back of the boat. How can I pull those up and really get myself going towards my goal with less effort? That's the main point. So as I said at the beginning of the speech, I have 2 people in my program. One person's taking off, one person's not. I was like, why is this happening? Then I started studying the mind. Then I started recognizing, oh, what are those triggers? What are those emotional things that are rising to the surface? We're going to talk about emotions in a little bit. So keep this in mind. Where in your life are you sitting on the back of the boat where you've dropped anchors and you're not getting to where you want to go? That's where your subconscious mind changes. And like I said, you're going to get faster results with a fraction of the effort. We'll shift over to this side. All right, a little simpler picture here. Now, another way of looking at this, I want to give you guys lots of different ways of perceiving this to make it easier for you. So there's now, right? We're right here now. Does everyone agree? We're here now? Okay, and you guys walked in the door, right? That happened in the past, right? And that led to now. Do you guys agree? Right? Okay, cool. We're all on the same page. This is great. So what happens is people, and we've all done this too, we're all guilty of this, is that you say, I want to have this thing happen in the future. I want to, like, let's say your goal is to get to an island destination, like you want to go to Bali, or you want to make $1 million, you want to find love, or whatever it is, okay? Whatever your goal is, you could actually be pushing it further and further away because you're just wanting it. Instead of wanting something to happen, change your frame of reference, okay? I'm slowing down here. This is an important point. Because you guys walked in the door that led to right now, right? You guys remember that happened? You guys remember that, right? So instead of focusing on what you want to have happen, focus on what you did before it happened. Okay? It's like, what? What are you talking about? So what happens is, as you put more time and energy, remember I said the power of a thought, when you put more time and energy and focusing on what you did before it happened, then it actually brings it back in time, right? To the point where you're doing what you wanted to do to get your goal, and then you actually make your goal happen, and it was less difficult because you change your frame of reference. Some people, they push things away because like, I want it so bad, I want it so bad. They're not thinking about how to get it. Does that make sense? Because people are wanting it so bad, they're not focusing on the thing that got them there. So when you change your frame of reference, it actually pulls it back in time. It makes it easier to get results because you're actually pulling it towards you. You're doing the thing that made it happen for you, right? Simple concept. You guys, does that make sense? Any questions, anything yet so far? We're good? Cool. So, mental game. Get results, faster results with less effort. That's why I'm doing this whole presentation, because I'm like, oh my God, like, we could do this diet challenge, and I could just give you these pieces of paper, and we're going to get some results. For sure, I've done this many times. Or I could do this presentation and go a little bit deeper into how all these things work mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, and give you guys faster results with less effort. Now, here's another example of kind of what I just showed you guys. Right? You have all these emotional factors. We're touching on emotions here a little bit because everything's connected. Your mind, your body, and your emotions are all connected, right? So you have emotional factors like you get surprised, you're angry, your happiness, your fear, love, whatever it is that you're feeling on an emotional level, that's more like your subconscious mind. When that stuff surfaces, you have to recognize it because that's where your triggers are. They're triggering you to eat certain foods. They're triggering you to go back to old habits. They're triggering you to sit back on the back of that boat and you're looking at your past again instead of actually attracting what you want. So another way of looking at this, you guys know the Titanic, the story of the Titanic? So when the Titanic hit the iceberg, did it hit above the water or below the water? Right? It hit below, it took out the underneath because that's what's going on with your subconscious mind. So when you start to recognize when emotional things are rising to the surface, that's when you kind of catch them and you can make a change in your life as they rise to the surface, but you have to be conscious of those things. On the surface, you're just thinking logically, with reason, and you're not going to catch those things. But when you start to pay attention to those things as they rise up, then it's easier. So you're not fighting the current. You're actually getting to your what you want to accomplish, like I said, with less effort. Now let's talk about some of the physical stuff here. So I have a couple pictures here. Does anybody know where these places are? So this is Tana Lot Temple, and this is Goa Ganesh Temple. I hope I said that right. And the main point here with these temples is that when it comes to your physical body, you want to see your body as a temple. This temple right here, you can only access it when the tide is out. So the ocean kind of comes in and cleans things out. But when I went to this temple, there was this amazing priest there, and he gave me a tour. And one of the things that he said, he actually said this to me. Your body is like a temple. And when we come here to this temple each day, people leave stuff on the ground. The trees leave leaves on the ground, they fall to the ground. And we have to clean those things up or the temple's not gonna look very good, right? The same thing in your own life. People are gonna leave stuff in your temple. They're gonna leave stuff in your life, mentally, physically, or emotionally, or spiritually. It's your work to clean that up. Just the natural world, like trees are gonna leave stuff in your life. You could be dealing with stuff that's just happening, but you have to focus on motivating yourself to cleanse yourself from those things. And you do that with your diet. When you have your diet right, when you have your way of life right, then you're cleansing yourself. You can have a night out and have some fun. You can drink whatever you want, eat whatever you want, but you need to make sure you're cleansing yourself. And that's kind of what we're doing with this diet challenge. Like I said, I was in Bali, right? And I was having a good time a month ago, but I'm excited to do the diet challenge too because it's time for me to do some cleansing, right? That's why twice a year we do this. It's like a reset to get you guys focused again on getting your diet right. Because this daily renewal and cleansing, like I said, it's like showering because if you wake up every day and you don't shower, you're gonna stink. Right? This is how you keep yourself motivated when you face tough challenges in your life. And if you ignore these things, then it can lead to consequences. That's why you get people who are so addicted to eating sugar, they get diabetes or whatnot, or they're drinking alcohol so much they have liver problems. So if you continue to ignore this stuff and you don't cleanse your system out, then you're gonna run into problems. But whose fault is it, right? Part of it is you, like I said, recognizing, seeing your body as a temple, and that makes it easier for you to make that change. Or seeing your body as a boat. This is, like I said, giving you tools, using simple metaphors or analogies so you can kind of see yourself in a different way to create change. Physical development, let's go a little deeper into that. So you'll see I have all these sodium, potassium, calcium, and oxygen, chemical elements, there we go. So your body is a chemistry experiment. I often say this as a joke, don't blow it up. Okay, some people are kind of blowing up their chemistry experiment, right? So like I said, when I'm giving you the tools to work on yourself, when you see it as a chemistry experiment, each day you want to think like, what am I putting in? What am I pulling out? And how is it affecting my body, right? Like I chose sodium, potassium, and calcium because these are some of the things when you're dehydrated, and people think, well, if I just drink water, that's going to rehydrate me. But your brain functions on sodium, potassium, and chloride. So you got to make sure that you're paying attention. Like, well, I drank all this water and I was dehydrated. Why don't I feel better? You should have some like coconut water or something else. So this is an example where the chemistry experiment works with your body. Another example is seeing food as a drug or fuel for your metabolism. Earlier this year, I gave a speech to WBE Electric, and I had this one client who she lost about 15 pounds in 30 days. And I was like, what did I say to you that really made a change in your life? And she was like, well, you told me food is a drug. I'd never looked at it like that before. And that's why I think this is a really important point here. It's like anything that you put in your system, 10 to 15 minutes later, you're going to feel an effect. It's just like when you drink alcohol, right? You don't take a shot and you feel it like 30 seconds later, right? Or if you're full, you don't feel full. Like once you feel full, you were full 10 minutes before because there's a lag. And so that's why it's important, like I said, in terms of like the physical aspects in your diet, is you've got to be conscious of how it's affecting your metabolism, right? One of the things I'm going to mention later, I'll probably mention it a few times, is that you want to do like a diet journal for a period of time. And that allows you to track how you're feeling from the foods that you're eating. Another very important thing, and if you notice here in my gym, it says oxygen is the foundation for what we do here in my gym. And any guys who've worked with me, it's one of the things I talk about in your first training session. We've got to make sure we get lots of oxygen in your system. And in terms of burning fat too, your body goes through a process. There's an alpha and beta side to fat, and it goes through a process called beta oxidation. And you have to have lots of oxygen present. I'm not trying to go deep into like oxygen and breathing in this presentation, but it's a powerful point because when you get your diet right, you want to make sure you're doing lots of exercise to help ignite your metabolism so you're burning calories faster, right? That's that beta oxidation thing that I'm talking about. And last key point on physical development is you want to focus more on performance rather than aesthetics. I know that we're in America and it's all about looking good and all this stuff, but if you think about this, if you're right now, you can't do 10 push-ups, and like a month from now or 2 months from now, and then you can do 10 push-ups, you're probably going to look pretty good. So focus more on how you're performing. If you perform good, you're going to look good, and you're going to feel a lot better about yourself. If you're always just looking in the mirror at your butt from every angle, it's just, you want to make sure that you're focused more on doing the squats that are going to make your butt look good. You know what I mean? So emotional triggers, and this is such an important thing here. I'm going to give you guys a few questions you can ask yourself about emotional triggers. What emotions are triggering your cravings? On the next slide, I'm going to give you a list of some emotions that you could be experiencing. If you can recognize, remember when I showed you that the iceberg, and when those emotions rise up, you have to recognize those emotions. That's what's triggering you to eat certain things. We've all done that. I've had like a great day, and I go out and like, oh, we're gonna have a drink and celebrate. You know what I mean? Or you had a bad day, and you're feeling depressed, and you eat something you probably shouldn't have, right? So recognizing what your triggers are is very important. Who or what in your life is triggering you, and what are you eating? What are the things you're going to? You feel that trigger, like sometimes, like something happened in your past. I got a client who, so a loved one passed away, and then certain things were triggering them to go and eat all the time. And once we figured out what that trigger was, when that trigger popped up, they were able to not eat the wrong things. They were like, let me think another way of saying this, is that people often think that you want to fix the behavior. You have to figure out what the trigger is first. Because if you're triggered and you're going to go right to the behavior, you need to recognize where that trigger is. Once you recognize the trigger, then you can aim in a different direction and stop shooting yourself. Recognizing how often it's occurring. It could be happening every day, right? It could be someone that we love. It could be someone at work. It could be like something that we do on a day-to-day basis that's triggering us to consume the wrong foods. And as I mentioned a moment ago, is that how do you recognize and replace and aim in a new direction and stop shooting yourself? Because that's what you're doing. You're like, you get triggered, you go eat sugar. I've had a lot of mommies who are like, oh, you're not cutting chocolate out of my life. And that's like their trigger food. I'm like, oh, that's your trigger food. Thanks for telling me. So when you figure out what your trigger is and figure out what your behavior is, where you're going to, that's where you can make changes. So understanding what your triggers are is extremely important for making emotional changes. Even like just because we're on the topic of emotion, the word emotion, the word motion is the center of the word emotion. It's literally going to trigger you to take action. And so when you recognize that the emotion, right, that you have, it's a great place for you to start making changes. We don't learn emotional intelligence in schools. I don't know why we're not teaching that to kids these days. They're like angry, sad, depressed. I'll just go to the next slide. Because they're experiencing all these things. We're all experiencing all these things, and we don't know how to manage them. Right? And that's what's causing these poor diets that we have in society today. Now this list here, I can't take credit for it, these two lists here. This actually comes from an amazing doctor named Dr. Thurman Fleet. And he was a doctor down in Texas. And he was so successful at healing people, they had to change the roads to get to his office because he was healing so many people so fast. And one of the things that he talked about, I read 2 books from this guy. My chiropractor actually mentioned him. I was like amazed at what I learned from these 2 books. But one of the most important things in terms of emotional stuff is that many people, if you're holding on to these, it's like holding on to a hot ember, being like, I hate you, but like the hate is all inside of myself, and I'm just holding on to a hot ember, burning myself, holding on to that, and that's also can be triggering me because I'm not expressing my whatever emotion that I have, and I'm just holding on to it. That's triggering me to keep eating the same stuff or staying stuck in my past, right? So the opposite of these, if you look at fear, the opposite of fear is faith, opposite of worry is hope. And you can kind of look at them yourself, like opposite of hate is love. The one thing the doctor said is that you want to focus on being more balanced on holding on to these and manifesting these in your life, because then you're going to be more successful. These things lead to sickness. On my next slide, I'm going to show you where some emotions actually show up in your body if you're holding on to them for a long time. People go to the doctor, and this is actually a really important point about my presentation, is that people go to the doctor because they have a physical ailment, and the doctor is giving them pills. They're giving them like some kind of thing for their leg or like whatever it is. They keep trying to heal people on a physical level, but they're emotionally wounded. And the doctor doesn't even ask, oh, what happened emotionally? They don't say that. You know what I'm saying? And this is not my opinion. This is from this doctor that I studied. And so what happens is over time, you're so focused on trying to heal them physically, you don't address the emotions, that you start having mental problems because like, what's wrong with me? I can't heal. And, you know what I mean? I had a client, doctor / friend of mine, who years ago, she told me that she had a client or patient that she was working with, and she wasn't healing. It took her a year, and once they recognized that she had a son who had died in the Iraq War, and once she addressed that and really dealt with that, she healed within a month. 1 month. It took a year, and they couldn't figure out, why isn't she healing? Because they'd never addressed the emotional side. So I've had a few doctors here who've explained this. We're not addressing the emotional stuff, and that's what's surfacing and causing us to have physical problems, triggering us to eat certain foods. And then it can, like I said, it can lead to mental problems too. So really powerful point there with your emotions. And I really like this quote, that's why I put this up here. You guys ever done rock balancing? I'm terrible at it. I'm really not good at all. They always fall. But I don't want to be at the mercy of my emotions. I want to use them, to enjoy them, and to dominate them. And it may sound kind of aggressive to say that you want to dominate your emotions, but it's a lot better than your emotions dominating you, right? So think about that when it comes to your emotions and when you experience these emotions. So kind of this list right here, right? Oop, went back too far. This list right here, if you're holding on to these, it can actually show up in your body. Like you could have problems with moving forwards. It could be fear. You'll have pain and tightness in your hips, right? Or if you have stuff in your back, you're having lack of emotional support, right? I mean, if you guys want, I've had people actually ask me before, if you guys want to, I can pull up this slide later and you can take a little bit more look in depth at some of these. But it just shows you where if you're holding on to emotions over time and then it shows up in your body, that's like I said, it's emotional, but it turns into a physical problem. And if you don't work on it, then it's going to become worse. And your diet feeds all this stuff. I have to tie it back to diet, right? Because your emotions feed what you eat, and what you eat feeds your emotions. They kind of go together. So be conscious of where you're feeling certain stuff. I had a doctor, I had back pain. The doctor's like, well, you're not getting the support that you need in a certain aspect of my life. I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. That doesn't mean anything. This was years ago. And then I realized, like, oh, wait, you're right. Once I found the support, then the pain went away, right? I could have just been taking pills the whole time to get rid of it, but that wouldn't have worked. I had to work on an emotional level to heal from what had happened to me. Let's talk about the spiritual side. Now, when it comes to your spirit and your diet, I think this is a really powerful point. I want you guys to look at your body like a musical instrument. So hopefully I have maybe one of your favorite musical instruments up here. And what you want to do is you want to fine tune this musical instrument. That's the way you should look at your body. Like your body has organs in it, right? So just like you'd be playing an organ, right? So you want to fine tune that organ so it's performing, so it sounds really good. Every single day you're working on that, you're fine tuning it, right? Making sure that it sounds and performs at a high level. Another way of looking at spiritual enrichment is that, or how do you create spiritual enrichment with your diet or your way of life? Remember, whenever you hear the word diet, you're gonna think way of life now, right, Pat? Cool. Colorful foods, right? Your body, when you open your eyes, you see colors, right? When you look at your skin tone, you have colors, right? So make sure you're getting lots of colors in your system. Your rituals create your riches. Every single day, the things that you do, that's where you create your spiritual enrichment, right? The things that you choose the things that you do on a regular basis. And when it comes to your diet and spiritual enrichment, you should make food a sacred practice. We live in a society where we're going so fast. There's so many fast food joints. That's an indicative of this right here. People aren't making food a sacred practice. They're like, oh, I have to go work harder. Oh, no, and they go back to work. And there's no love in their food. You know what I'm saying? Like when you eat a meal and someone put love when they made it, you can feel it when you feel more nourished, right? So think about that when you go out to make your own food. Put love into the food that you make. And then when you eat it, take time to really enjoy it. Be around people that you really care about. Make it a sacred practice. And then you're going to feel more nourished from that. That's the spiritual side of diet. We're getting away from it in society because we're working harder and harder and harder. And we need to get back to our roots, literally our roots of quality food that has grown in the ground with roots, right? So keep that in mind when it comes to making food a sacred practice because your habits breed improved skill. So some people, when they first start a new diet, or a new way of life, right? Because remember, when I say diet, we think way of life, is you're starting something new. It's like, oh, it's so hard. I have to prepare all these things. I have to chop all these vegetables and do all these different things. Is that it may seem difficult at first. It's just like any of you guys you guys have started working out with me. It was a little difficult at first, right? And then as you get better at it, it gets a little bit easier. So it's the same thing when it comes to preparing your meals. So some people are like, oh, it's so difficult preparing my meals. But then when you feel really good after the food that you eat, it's a lot easier for you to do it consistently. Does that make sense? You also have a connection to your higher self. Now, what does that mean, higher self? I actually have it written over here. There's lower self, higher self. What does that mean? If you're working on a regular basis, mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, that's you operating from your higher self. If you're not working on yourself mentally, physically, emotionally, or spiritually, that's you operating from your lower self. And you're not going to perform as high of a level. And what it comes down to me is you're creating your own happiness. On a day-to-day basis, you're forcing yourself to be disciplined mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. That's how you're going to create your own happiness. So these are examples of in your body you have these things called chakras. And so this is me studying Eastern philosophy, and there's a male and a female here, and different foods work for different people. It's not my job to tell you what foods work for you guys. You have to figure that out for yourself. That's part of the chemistry experiment. But keep in mind, there's different colors that work within your own body. Remember I said in the last slide how colorful foods are so important? So you have to find what colors of foods, and they actually work on different levels internally. You can actually heal yourself with your diet. Pharmaceutical companies don't want you to know that or think that. Like, here's a pill, it'll heal everything, right? But keep this in mind when you start focusing on changing your way of life or your diet, because the colors that you consume really help to heal your internal body on different levels that you may not even be conscious of. Now, last slide before I talk about the diets. Wealth maintenance. How do you maintain your wealth, your health, your diet, your way of life? Look at your body as a bank account. Every single day, am I doing the work mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually? Are you putting money in that body bank account? Are you taking out? Like I said, I was in Bali last month. I was definitely pulling out of the bank account, not too much, but I put a lot in before. So you have to look at that balance that you have in your life and make sure that you're seeing it a little bit differently. Healthcare costs are rising. It's one of the most expensive things in the world today. It's ridiculous. Not that I want to get into it, but one of my clients, she's an investor, and she told me the reason she comes to me is because healthcare costs are going up. She could be a billionaire, but the cost of health is so high that she don't want to have a physical ailment. You can actually save a lot of money just really learning how your chemistry experiment works, learning how your chemistry experiment works. How's the Natalie chemistry experiment? How do you figure out your chemistry experiment works? And that's a lot cheaper than consuming a lot of these expensive drugs. Learn what works best for your body type. Everybody's body is different. That's why, like I said, when I go over these diets, there's 4 different diets. My goal is to put the tools in front of you, allow you to work on yourself, ask me for help if you need it, but you have to essentially, the work is on you guys, being able to learn how these changes are going to happen. And contact me if you need help at any time, because it's not a journey you're doing on your own. Essentially, when you go to the grocery store, it's all up to you what you put in your mouth. But if you're struggling with making changes, ask for assistance, ask for guidance, okay? So everybody feeling good? Having fun? Did you learn anything good? Good stuff? All right, let's talk a little bit about these diets, okay? So some of you guys have done my diets in the past. SOB, you won one of my diet challenges years ago. My brother was actually a trainer here at my gym and was training SOB. It was one of my greatest moments seeing my little brother coaching a SOB over here. And how much weight did you lose?
I lost 12 pounds.
12 pounds. So, right, it works. The blood pressure, yeah. I mean, because there's a lot of little side benefits that you get from these things that are like, I had a client recently that same thing, like she got off blood pressure medication. Like that's worth more than any amount of money to like not have to pop these pills all the time because you made subtle changes in your way of life, right? So 4 diets to choose from. Number 1, we have the calorie counter diet, which is basically a diet, diary, or a journal. Then we have the fast burner diet, which is a fasting diet. We have the carnivore, which is like a paleo, Atkins, or ketogenic style of diet. And last but not least, we have the flesh-free, vegetarian, or vegan diet. Calorie counter diet. Let's get into what these diets are so you guys can make the right decision. First and foremost, I'm actually doing this diet. It's not easy. I'm not gonna lie. This is the most challenging diet, doing the calorie counter diet, because you have to track every single thing that you eat, every single thing. Whatever you have, you put it and you track it. Why is that important? You look really excited about that one. Serving size or quantities. A lot of people, many people, even myself, I don't know what a serving size for every single thing that I eat is. So you want to learn. That's actually when I first did a calorie counter diet back in college, when I went to San Diego State University. I got my degree in kinesiology. And they made us do a diet journal. I was like, wow, I'm like overeating a lot. Good thing I'm a big guy, I work out a lot. But you don't even know. A lot of people are not even conscious of how much they're overeating because they don't know what a serving size is. They have no idea. Right? So that's why it's so important to do. I really think that everybody should do the calorie counter diet for like a week just to really get an idea of how you're going to change it. Years ago, I actually worked with Tony Robbins' trainer. And she told me, she said, I was like, what is the most important thing in terms of changing your diet? She said, you've got to have a record. It's just like a slide ago when I talked about wealth management. How are you going to help a business change if you don't know what it's been doing? You know what I'm saying? So if you look at it like, how can I make a change in my diet? I have to look at tracking what I'm doing. And then you'll know, like I said, how you feel. Come right back to the emotions. Like for me, I know what to eat the day before I give a speech, right? Because I was like, this food's gonna make me fall asleep. I'm gonna sleep good, right? And then the day I have a presentation, I always have this certain smoothie that I love. But I know that I'm gonna feel better and perform better when I eat these certain foods. And if you have a record of it, it's like giving you guys a bar of gold, but you're giving it to yourself because you're actually creating a record. You know what foods, like, oh, I have a big speech tomorrow. Like, this is what I'm gonna eat. Or you have a presentation or whatever it is that you're doing for work. And then you can have a weekend like, oh, I'm not doing anything this week. I can get whatever I want. No, but you don't want to do too much of that, right? So as I mentioned before, these are some apps you can use to track MyPlate, MyFitnessPal, and MyNet Diary. I'm going to be using MyFitnessPal and tracking every single thing that I eat. It's going to be awesome. I'm really excited. Combined diets. You can actually do the calorie counter diet. I'm doing the calorie counter and the carnivore diet. So you can combine diets too. You can put 2 of them together. You track everything you eat and you eat a lot of meat. It's going to be great. Fast burner diet, you eat 500 to 800 calories a day. And I did this diet last time. I lost 20 pounds in 30 days. It just melted off of me. I don't have a lot of weight to lose, but it melted off of me. And essentially what it comes down to, there's actually like 10 different ways of doing a fasting diet. If you want to do the fasting diet, you don't have to do it specifically the way that I tell you to. You can go online and look up some different ways. Like I said, this is really about giving you guys the tools. The way I did it, I would take my week, Mondays and Fridays, I would eat 500 to 8, I was eating like 800 to 1,000. I'm a little bit bigger, so I was eating about 800 to 1,000 calories between the hours of noon and 7 p.m. So I'd wake up, I wouldn't eat anything until noon, and I would just be drinking tons of water. That's actually coming up here, lots of water. So I would pick my times, 12 to 7 p.m. I would only eat during those hours, only 1,000 calories, and the other days I could eat whatever I wanted. But the most important thing that I recognized is that I didn't need to eat as much. Those days where I really cut my calories back, if you really want to win the diet challenge, this is your best opportunity right here. But like I said, the most important thing that I recognize is I don't need to eat as much because those days where I was really cutting my calories back, I was fine. The first week was a little rough, I'm not gonna lie. I was peeing all the time, I was drinking so much water, and I was really hungry the first couple of days. But after a week or two, I was like, this isn't so bad. And I was really hydrated because I was drinking so much water. And then your body gets used to drinking so much water, right? So you're not running to the bathroom every hour. But the main point, and I put a cup on each of these slides, I put a point that you can use with any of the diets, is plan your schedule around your diet. A lot of people, they're running around, they're rushing to eat. Like really, like I said, focus on planning your life around your way of life, right? You're gonna feel a lot better. Carnivore diet. Quality sources of meat. This is my main point. One of my buddies, I think this is funny. He's like, they have meat at the dollar store. I'm like, oh my God. I was like, what? Are you kidding me? So when you look for where you're gonna get your meat from, make sure you're picking a quality source. I mean, you don't want to eat it. You don't want to eat meat from the dollar store. That's the most important point of my presentation. So make sure you're picking a quality source. So you don't want to eat meat that came from, that was mistreated its whole life. And then you're eating that fear or that anger or that sadness. You're consuming that into your body, right? You want to pick a quality food source. And that's one of the beautiful things. If you're doing a diet, well, we're always doing a diet, remember? We have the farmer's market. I started going to the farmer's market over here at the Civic Center. We have some of the best food in the world right here. You can go get food from local farms. You know what I'm saying? So it's a lot easier and a lot better quality stuff. So really pay attention to the quality of the meat. I had a client, she was vegetarian for like 10 years and she eventually gave it up. And she said the most important thing when I come back to eating meat is just really making sure I got it from a quality source. She's like, I needed the protein. So if that's what you're gonna do, the carnivore diet, then make sure you get a quality meat source. The main reason why this diet works, the carnivore diet, I've done this diet and lost like 5 to 10 pounds, it's when you cut high glycemic carbohydrates. So what happens is your body's so used to the bread, the pasta, the rice, potatoes, and that comes back to my color thing. There's no color in bread, pasta, rice, but it's all white. It's really just a filler for your meal. You know, it's like if you have a little bit, it's not that terrible for you, but the more you cut that stuff out, the better, because your body, when you cut these high glycemic, like your energy source is high glycemic carbohydrates, as you cut that out, your body's like, what do I use for energy source? You start increasing your good fat intake. Because your body literally, I'll never forget this, my first diet, I actually opened this gym a month afterwards because it literally changed the way that I thought. Like I'm really trying to sell you guys on this whole idea. Like it changed my life. I remember being in the grocery store and like freaking out. I was low blood sugar. I was like, oh my God, what do I eat? I can't eat anything here. I was like freaking out. So like, but that's kind of stuff happens. That's why if you prepare ahead of time. But I wasn't eating enough fat. So really make sure you up your good fat intake. Now, what are examples of good fat? Nuts, avocado, fish. So increase your good fat intake. I can't stress that enough if you do this diet. And also, just like I said in the fasting one, increase your water intake too. Helps you to stay full. Any one of these diets, don't just jump into it. Ease your way into it. Like the diet challenge starts 13th. I'm going to start doing assessments next week. Start making the changes. I'm starting the diet myself on Wednesday. So I'm going to slowly transition things out and be tracking everything that I eat this weekend. It's going to be really a lot of fun. But like I said, don't just jump into it like cold turkey. Ease yourself into this stuff. I once had a client who he was drinking like 6 Mountain Dews a day, and then he went down to like 2, and he almost went into shock when he was working out because of such a big drop in the blood sugar level. So be conscious. Like I said, keep a record, keep a journal of this stuff. Bring snacks. This is a tip that you could use on any of the diets. If you want to be successful, have something with you every single, like if you're out, like if you look over there, I have my almond butter sitting there. It's ready for me. If I'm hungry, a couple scoops of almond butter is going to keep me going. But that comes back to the good fat too. So if you have some like trail mix or something like that, you're going to be more successful. If you're out with your friends and they're all eating crap, you're like, hey, look guys, I bought trail mix. And you can just pass trail mix out to everybody, right? So other examples, if you want to find recipes and whatnot, you can look up the Paleo, Atkins, or a low carb diet. These are all examples of cutting those high glycemic carbohydrates and utilizing protein as your main fuel source and good fat as well. Flesh-free, my last diet we're going to go over today. Vegetarian or vegan style. Some people do pescatarian where they're still eating fish, and that's kind of within the range of the flesh-free diet. Increasing your veggies and fruit. Now, I personally believe that no matter what diet you do, you should all up your veggies. More fruits and vegetables. This comes back to like my spiritual slide where you want to make sure that you're getting lots of colors in your diet. Cutting high glycemic carbohydrates. As I mentioned before, a year ago when I did the vegetarian diet, I was eating too many carbohydrates. I was like, oh, well, I'm eating vegetarian. Like, you know, it's pasta. No, you don't want to do that. So be conscious of that too. All right. Vitamin B12. I've talked to many doctors. I've done lots of research. If you're not eating any meat, it's important you get some vitamin B12 in your diet because you're going to become deficient in that if you're not eating any meat. Plan ahead for events. This is an important point for every diet. If you had a long day at work and you didn't eat enough and then you go out to a party that has all these treats and things that you love, you're probably going to cheat on your diet. So make sure anytime you go to an event, eat before you go because then you're going to be much more successful because you're not going to be craving things when you're there. Does that make sense? Like really important point there. Now, I'm pretty much done, but I'm gonna go over briefly the diet challenge. We have 6 weeks challenge starting like I said on August 13th. I'm gonna be sending out a video each week. My dad's been helping me out with making videos to keep you guys motivated while you're on the diet. So each week I'll either text you or email you a video to help keep you motivated. You pick from one of the 4 diets. You have to complete the pre and post assessment. I need to get your name, email, and phone number. I already have most of you guys' information. This is a little bit for my next presentation. But the winner receives $250, and I'll be starting the assessments next week. So let me know. I'll probably just, whenever you guys come in, and you guys, most of you guys have already signed up. So, but yeah, just let me know when you want to do your assessment. Usually whenever you come in, I'll have a form. We do blood pressure. We do girth measurement on like your arms and your legs to see how much of a body change. And I have you do a light workout. And then we see how you change over the course of the 6 weeks. And then I make my decision based upon who's made the biggest changes through your girth change in your arms and your legs, best change in your workout, and most weight lost. And that's how I pick 2 out of those 3 is how I pick my winner for the diet challenge. My whole goal with this presentation is to give you guys the tools to work on yourself. As I'm working with so many people now, I've recognized that like that's the fastest and best way I can help people. Just give you the tools, let's work on you. Just like whatever you need, let me know, let's figure it out. But essentially, it always comes down to like, I can't follow you around and knock food out of Alicia's hand when she's not supposed to eat things. You know what I mean? So like, it really comes down to you making the decision of what you're gonna put in your mouth. You know, like I gotta, on some level, be in your head when you guys are in the grocery store. Oh, this is my way of life. This is really important. You know, you gotta take it really, don't go to the grocery store hungry. You're gonna buy something, we all know that, right? Thanks a lot, guys. I really appreciate it. Good stuff.